on hello, Mr. Dillon. A memorial service, remembrance for my mom. And of course, I have Sister Sharon and Brother Brian. And my youngest brother's no longer alive, Philip Scott. And we have a number of our family members here today and a bunch of friends from many years back. My dad called me this morning and said he wasn't feeling well enough, he was starting to hack away. So he's going to call in a couple of times, the one during our tribute time as well as in a couple of minutes. I'm going to actually call him and have him say a few words. But just thank you for being here. And I'm going to see if I can dial my dad up and have him.
Let me see. I got it on mine.
Oh, okay. Why don't you bring it up here, or I can give you a. Dad will say a few remarks here. Okay. Dad, I've got you on the speaker here. See, go ahead and just say a test 1, 2, 3 first, and we'll get the microphone adjusted. And let's see if we can get that in the loop. Okay, Dad, say testing a little bit. That's it. Let me try that on the microphone here. You're trying to get the volume. Okay. Well, experiment with the volume. Try again.
Yes, sit on the speaker. Don't speak right. Say it again. There you go.
Okay. Go ahead, and we've got the entire audience listening to you now. So go ahead and say a few words that you would like to say.
Yeah, so welcome to everyone that came for the memorial service. I appreciate it. I wish I could be there, but for your sake, I stayed away. I feel well enough to be there myself, but since it seems like I'm in the process of developing a sore throat, and I have a lot of cough, a wheezy cough that I don't normally have, and I don't sound very good. My voice is not normal, and so I felt like it was better to stay away to safeguard the health of all the people that came. But those, especially those that came from out of town, some distance, I would be happy if you are brave enough and you want to see me face to face. You're welcome to come to my house and see me here and visit later in the day. I'll be here all day long. And I'm sorry I can't be there, but I felt like it was wiser for me to stay away today. I don't get a cold very often, but this is one that is about 1 year that I get. It's been an unfortunate time. I did take a COVID test this morning that was negative for COVID, but many viruses go around the community, and so welcome again. I'll just say a few more words when the tribute time comes later in the program, so enjoy and thanks for coming. I appreciate the honor you're showing the worthy. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you, Dad. And
let's bow our heads in prayer, shall we? Dear Father, we want to thank you for Warrine. Father, help us to remember again and again her faithfulness, her loyalty, her love for you, because it's had an influence on a lot of people. Thank you that we can honor her today. And we're looking forward to that time when we can all meet together again at the resurrection. In the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Just a little background to this. Cher actually asked the kids to share us the song they sang right before Warrine passed. We had the privilege of being there and had the honor of holding her hand. I'm really thankful for that. But right before she passed, Cher asked my children to sing a song, and the first thing that came to their mind was the B.I.B.L.E. So they sang that song, and it was all peaceful and calm, and she just drifted off to sleep, that deep sleep that will be awakened by the Lord when He comes. So Cher asked that they sing that very song for you today.
Yes, that's the book for me. I stand alone on the Word of God. The B-I-B-L-E, the B-I-B-L-E. I'll take it along with me. I'll read and pray and then obey the B-I-B-L-E.
Were the Kim kids going to be involved today? I don't see them.
I'm not sure, I was thinking they were, but
Okay.
maybe they're not here.
Okay.
Warrine, in the year 2008, wrote a 26-page life sketch. And I've taken from that, so these are from Warrine herself. Warrine was born on January 25, 1935 in St. John's Hospital in Helena, Montana. Her father was Brian Mansfield McDuffie. Her mother was Dorothy Faye Wood. Warrine was one of 4 children. The oldest was Dorothy Lee, otherwise known as Dot. Then came Warrine Faye. Then Brian Mansfield, Beat Jr. And finally the youngest sister, Warrine. Is that how you pronounce that?
All right.
Okay. She was 9 years younger than Warrine. One of her grandfathers was a constable in the town of Helena, and the other was into politics and a lawyer. So we know where Warrine gets her intelligence. Warrine's family lived in a 2-story home on Laurel Street until it burned down when Warrine was still quite young. No one was in the home at the time, and very little was saved except for a few guns. Her father then rebuilt a 2-room house at the same site. He also flew a large American flag on a tall pole right in front. This was still during the Depression. Life was difficult. Guns were needed to help supplement the food supply with rabbits and squirrels. Money was in short supply, and they also had to gather wood to heat their house. Water was in a bucket with a dipper right there by the stove. Sometimes the water turned to ice overnight. Warrine's grandparents lived in a small house in Helena with a small black stove that had a compartment to heat the water. An ice box was on the back porch and had to be filled with blocks of ice periodically. When Warrine was with her grandmother, she attended the Salvation Army Church, and she was one of those bell ringers at select locations downtown. During the summer, they visited her Uncle Jim and Aunt Eileen in the small town of Lombard, Montana. That's about 52 miles from Helena on the Missouri River. Her uncle's home was right next to the railroad tracks, and it seemed to Warrine that the train was going to pass right through the house. It was so loud. They always had to carry a stick with them when they were outside because rattlesnakes were everywhere. Another uncle, Stan, lived in the town of Tustin, which is just a few miles from Lombard, and she remembers that he was a woodworker, and he did jewelry making as well. Warrine's first experience with music was when she learned the song American Patrol at school, and she would practice it on a cardboard keyboard. You know, it had the keys all written in, and she would play that. Later, her grandmother, McDuffie, moved in with them. She had a real piano. She brought it so Warrine could practice then on a real piano. She attended a girls' club called Bluebirds, and everybody had a Indian name. Her name was Kariki. Say what the name meant. She spent the first grade in Emerson School, and she also attended 3 other schools in elementary school there in Helena. And while she was in the first grade, she got to be the rhythm band director. She had a cute little red, white, and blue costume that she wore. When Warrine was about 9 years old, her parents separated and her mother married Harold Orville Wood, just back from fighting in World War II. Year was 1944. Her stepfather often got drunk on weekends and became fairly violent until her uncle gave a stern spot with him. But she said when Orville was sober, he was a very kind man. Warrine attended Helena High School and was able to participate on the tumbling team. One of the special events was an invitation to accompany the school band to Spokane for the Lilac Festival. So they had the tumbling team just before the band, and they would do all their acrobatics, and then the band would play right behind them. While in high school, she worked at the local Dairyland, as did her mother. And she also worked as a secretary for Western Life Insurance Company. While in high school, she excelled in shorthand and also in typing. And she won awards, different contests that they had. About this time, Warrine's mother separated from Orville and married Clifford Griffin and stayed with him for about 25 years. Though the family had many difficulties, her mother always kept the family together. And she's quite proud of the fact that they never were on welfare. Warrine's grandmother McDuffie and her uncle Jim were Seventh-day Adventists and often sharing literature with the family. Her stepfather Orville would try to get to the mail and throw that literature away before it affected the family. So they would try to get to the mailbox before her stepfather did, because they were interested in reading what it had to say. She was attending the Baptist church, and she asked her pastor about the Sabbath. He was a Russian fellow that had suffered quite a bit of persecution before coming over to America, and he said it really didn't matter about the Sabbath, what day you kept. Well, he thought, well, that's a strange answer. Since so many people insisted that Sunday was the right day, why did it matter? So that began her resolve to study to see what Scripture really was all about. In 1953, Warrine graduated from Helena High School and had the opportunity to go to Walla Walla College. He worked for the summer and attended college that fall. She was still a Baptist, but very much interested in the beliefs of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. She studied the Bible with Elder Paul Hubeck and was baptized into the Seventh-day Adventist Church the next year. Warrine worked the first year in the bindery, and later she worked as a secretary. First year she roomed with her sister and then with other friends on the other years. Warrine joined the college tumbling team, no surprise there, and traveled to various towns for performances. She also joined the music department under Professor C.W. Dorch. He was very specific about the kind of music that he instructed, only spiritual music. That made quite an impression on her too. Warrine and her sister Dorothy, otherwise called Dot, were invited to go to San Francisco for the General Conference session that year, and she was to be part of the choir that sang there. One summer, Warrine went to Mexico to study biology and Spanish with Dr. and Mrs. Ernest Booth. He was the one who set up the Walla Walla College biology station over at Rosario. She came back to Walla Walla College with a wonderful tan, and she liked to wear a white dress to show off her nice dark tan. Walla Walla College, she was selected social vice president of the Girls Club and later president of the Girls Club. One of the times that she wrote about, she participated in a bicycle race, you know, with those only one speed back in those days. She never had a bicycle as a kid. There was no money for that kind of thing, but at college she was able to borrow a bicycle and she won the race. She graduated from Walla Walla College in June of 1958 with a major in medical secretarial science with a minor in biology. Warrine married Caleb E Harden on August 10 of that summer. They continued to stay and work at the college so Hal could graduate the next year. Then they moved to Loma Linda University, where Hal was accepted into medical school. While there, 3 of their children were born: Stephen in 1959, Sharon in 1961, Brian in 1964. After graduation, Hal was inducted into the Army and went to Germany after attending basics at Fort Sam Houston in Texas. The hospital that they were assigned was the 14th Field Hospital in Bad Kreuznach. While in Germany, they were able to travel quite a bit, see the castles, travel the rivers, visit England, Spain, Austria. Then, just before their 4th child was born, Warrine traveled by herself home with the kids to Walla Walla, and Hal was able to join them after Scott was born in 1966. Dr. Harden was then invited to be a missionary in Adventist hospitals in Africa. Originally, they were assigned to Nigeria, but because of the war going on at that time, they served in Ghana and later in Sierra Leone. Warrine wrote quite a number of adventures they had with animals. Monkeys, green mamba, that's a snake. She was bitten by a rabid dog as well while protecting her son Stephen. She survived, obviously, and the shots weren't all that bad, according to her. While in Sierra Leone, they were building a brand new physical therapy department, and they invited the president of the country of Sierra Leone to come. He did come, and he arrived with lots of bodyguards, came in a helicopter, gave his speeches, then they had a big banquet afterward. That was a huge event in their life. After coming back from Africa, they moved to Walla Walla and then later to Wenatchee, where Dr. Harden bought Dr. Earl Bolton's medical practice. Warrine worked with him and later in the community college, she worked for him and later worked at the local hospital as a registered nurse. So when they came back from Africa, while she was at Walla Walla College, she continued her nursing program.
She did that at Walla Walla Community College, actually.
Community college, right. And she worked as a registered nurse and later as an instructor at that community college. In 2001, she was voted the most student-friendly instructor for that year, which...
That's here in Wenatchee. Wenatchee Valley College.
Right. She was quite pleased with that kind of a reputation. During 2006, she struggled with breast cancer, went to Loma Linda University Hospital for treatment. She praised God, even though she had a full recovery, but 4 chemo treatments, 33 radiation treatments. In 2008, she celebrated not only her 50th anniversary of Walla Walla College graduation, but also her 50th wedding anniversary with Hal Harden. She joined the Abundant Life Seventh-day Adventist Church, was the church clerk for many, many years, played the piano, very, very faithful attender of prayer meeting, very faithful in helping others to understand and respect what this church stands for. She died on September 14th, 2022, and it was a result of complications from a fall she had in her kitchen. She was able to talk at first, and then gradually she wasn't able to talk and just still sensed when people came to visit, and she really appreciated people. Well, we're looking forward to that time when she can continue the story and praise of God after resurrection.
I believe at this time the Kim kids are going to have a song. Following that, we'll have a couple of songs by video. We'll have the turn both on this. Switches turned on.
say it was an honor when Hal called me and asked me to be here today. I look at the Hardens a bit like a second family. I remember very, very well when I first came to Wenatchee. They were some of the people that gave me the hardest time. I'll never forget the first time I met Warrine. She asked me to come over, and she quickly was ready to spar with me theologically. I had a special relationship with Warrine. Warrine was one of those people that we could come together, and she would read my theology books quicker than I could. And she would have notes and dates and details and corrections in every single one of them. We would come together, we would talk, we would share. She would talk of the mission field and the times of her monkeys and snakes and all those things. But she would also come to share, and we would challenge each other. We would read each other's books, we would challenge each other's thinking, and we would sit and listen to each other. Even when we agreed to disagree, I was always thankful for the friendship I had. She was a very unique lady. I've never met anyone quite like Warrine, as I think we can all agree here. I've never met anyone that could write with both hands upside down and backwards and all the different ways she could do it. I can't even explain how she did some of those things. I remember clearly some of the times we would get together for the Abundant Life talent shows. She had a baton twirling that she did for Hal once that I think made us all just have a giant smile on our face. Warrine was a special person. So many memories. As I thought over what I would say when I was coming over here, my heart was flooded with memories of sitting, watching her write scribbles that she said were shorthand that I don't think anybody could read but her, at meetings, sitting around eating bread with peanut butter and applesauce, as was normal. She loved her peanut butter. I remember sitting, looking out. We lived just on two different sides of the funeral, the cemetery there in Wenatchee, and we would joke that she had a better view than I would for the resurrection morning as she looked out over the cemetery. She was a special woman. A woman that will be deeply missed. I know I will miss her friendship, as I know all of you will. As I think over Warrine, her life, everything she's done, the family that's here, the impact she's had, it's a legacy. You know, she lived through some challenging times, as we heard, as Pastor Beck shared some of her life sketch. I think we could be here all day going through her life sketch. And some pretty funny stories and some interesting stories, but a very special woman. You know, one thing she loved more than anything was to sit and talk about the God she loved. She loved her theology. She loved her God. And one of the things we would always come to was the remembrance that God didn't make us to deal with things like we're dealing with right now. He never meant for us to grieve. Lamentations 3:33 says, He does not willingly afflict nor grieve the children of men. And I believe if death brings grief, which it does, then it was never part of God's plan. When He made this place, it was perfect. And I know she is waiting for that day when she will wake up to see Him face to face. When we will have no more goodbyes, death will finally be defeated. I think of a little poem that I've come across. It's called Blessed Are They. It reads, Blessed are they who have died in the Lord, who have anchored their hope in the power of His word. No ill shall befall them. Their work is now done. Their course is now finished. Their crown is now won. They have fought the good fight. They have gone to their rest. Till they hear the loud trump that they shall awake the blast. Then will they rise in glory and sing. O grave, where is thy victory? O death, where is thy sting? Oh, how we do miss them from the sight of our eyes. But our lives and our memories still hold with strong ties. We've not long to linger, for the time is quite near when the archangel's voice from the cloud we shall hear. We then shall ascend to meet our dear Lord. and ever be with him, for this is his word. I've always looked at memorials as not necessarily goodbyes. Yes, goodbye from the times where we get to see the wonderful smile you can see on this picture. The times we can sit and talk with them, but it's really a see you later. As we trust in the God that Warrine loved, that she loved to share, that she loved to talk about, we await the day knowing her pain is over. Her struggle is finished, and someday soon, I believe she's going to awaken to a much better body, to a perfect body, to be resurrected first. It reminds me of 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, starting in verse 13. The Apostle Paul speaks to us as God pleads through him. He says, "But I do not want you to be ignorant, brethren, sisters, all of you that are here today, friends, family, concerning those who have fallen asleep, lest you sorrow as those who have no hope." God plans for us to grieve, plans for us to sorrow, but it doesn't have to be one that is so deep that we have no hope, because we have no hope because of what God has done. For if we believe that Jesus died and rose again, even so will God bring with him those who sleep in Jesus. For this we say to you by the word of the Lord, that we who are alive and remain until the coming of the Lord will by no means precede those who are asleep. For the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of an archangel, and with the trumpet of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. I've had many conversations with Warrine about that morning, what it might be like. As I said, often looking out that window, as many of you have sat and looked out, looking forward to the day when she would see the one son who is no longer with us, that couldn't be here today. When that day when we all rise up. It's comforting, although it's painful to know that loved ones may be gone. It's comforting to know that their pain is over. Their struggle is done. And the next thing they're going to know is eternal bliss. No more pain, no more sorrow. Again, it tells us they will be resurrected first. They will be the first ones. And then we who are alive and remain, it says, will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. And thus we shall always be with the Lord. Therefore comfort one another with these words. You know, as I read these passages, I've read this passage as my own father's passage. There's nothing easy about burying a parent. My condolences to the family, grandkids, great-grandchild, who probably isn't going to remember any of this, but we're all here saying our goodbyes in some ways. Saying goodbye until we meet again. And it goes on to talk about the coming of the Lord, but I do believe what Paul says here, we can comfort one another with these very words. Remembering the God that Warrine believed in. The God that I believe we can all believe in. And sure, there's many things we're going to miss. I'm going to miss that smile. I'm going to miss those times when she would sit and ask me if I want more peanut butter. On usually Stephen's homemade bread. Her ever positive attitude and outlook in life. She was always challenging me. She loved to challenge me, sometimes correct me right in the middle of my sermons, which I don't mind. It was part of the Harden family way. Stephen called it his porcupine personality.
That's skunk.
Skunk personality, okay. Her very hard-working nature, you know. People at her age, I've seen them deteriorate where their mind isn't always there, but man, that woman had her wits about her. She was sharp as could be the last time I saw her. I remember her just the things she would say. She was so excited every time. She loved to tell me about everything the kids were doing or the grandkids were doing. She was so excited about a grandchild. I'm glad she got to see that. I'm going to miss her evangelistic spirit. She always wanted to share the God she loved. in many different ways, whether it was a tract or a book. She always wanted to be very keen about doing evangelistic things. I think it was part of the reason she wanted to be a part of a church plant. She believed in this church. And one of the things I loved about this church is they loved her. Warrine could be a challenge at times, just like all the Hardens, I guess. And probably all of us to some degree. But you guys loved her. And I know she loved this church. You know, we all became a bit of an extended family. This church is always going to hold a special place in my life. The Harden family as well. And everything else that really made Warrine who won this. Without question, when it comes to losing a loved one, we're often filled with many different emotions. I'm sad that we won't see her again in this life. I'm happy to know that her pain is gone. At peace, knowing that she was ready to go because she knew her Lord. Appreciation for all that she taught us. All that she tried to invest in our lives, read to us, share with us. Fear for what we will do without her. Joy for the memories we will never forget with her. Anxiety waiting for the day we will see her again. This is an emotional time. Not an easy time. But she's taken a nap. And don't we all love a good nap? I know she loved them, and it's one of those things where I really can't wait to hear more stories of the Harden adventures in heaven. You know, there's nothing easy about these things. Every time I have to do a memorial, I wonder, how am I going to get through it when it's someone that is awfully close to me? But the beauty is I can always count on God. Because He's the one that truly brings comfort. He said, He promised in John that He would send the Comforter. In fact, John 14, 1 and 2 says, "Let not your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you." I can't wait to be in that heavenly home. Can't wait to sit down and sit at the table, and I don't know if there's going to be peanut butter up there. She might be disappointed if there's not. But to sit around and have those heart-to-heart conversations. You know, one thing I feel I would be amiss to do if Warrine was here. I can imagine her tell me, make sure you tell them to all choose Jesus so I can see them on that day. Make sure you tell them about the God I love. Make sure that isn't goodbye forever. Make sure you choose Jesus. Deuteronomy 30 and verse 19 says, "I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore, choose life." And she chose to not just accept the eternal life in Christ Jesus, but she embraced everything there was about Jesus. She lived a life dedicated to Him. She tried in every way she could to shine for her God. And we're told in 1 John 5:12, "He who has the Son has life. He who does not have the Son of God does not have life." You know, as we look forward to a time where we can be reunited, there's only one way to get there. It's not by being good enough. It's not about having all the right theology. It's about knowing who Jesus is. And I know sometimes these are the type of events that bring us together. Many of you may not have seen each other for many years. Funerals, weddings, the things we come together for as families, but let it be a time where we remember what's really important. You know, as we choose God, we choose to be with family forever. We choose to look forward to a day when there's never a goodbye. We choose to look forward to a day when we never have to have a funeral again. As Revelation 21:4 says, God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. In fact, the tears we shed today, He says He holds them all in a bottle. He keeps them. God knows our every tear. He knows the pain we go through. He suffered it Himself. But He says there will be no more death, or mourning, or crying, or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. As Paul said there in Thessalonians, he doesn't want us to grieve as those who have no hope. And I believe there is a great hope. In fact, she always liked to play, "We Have This Hope." I think she probably picked that up at the general conference sessions. A great Adventist song, "We Have This Hope." And I hope today, as we continue through our service, as we share some of the memories, as we think on all the wonderful things that we learned, as we experienced from Warrine, that we would remember the hope we have. Because this isn't goodbye forever. This is, at least for me, at my house, I want to choose the Lord today. And I want to look forward to that day when I can see her again. And so, as we continue to just share here, let us say, "Let's see you later, Warrine, for better days are ahead."
Live, okay. I'm going to show a few pictures, and I'm going to narrate on a few of them, and then following that, I'm going to have my sister say a few remarks before I show a portion of a video which will play the balance during a meal time. But I'm going to switch to a presentation in just a second, and let's see. This is a picture in Sierra Leone, West Africa. In fact, there's two people in this audience besides my immediate family that were a few miles away when this picture was being taken, I believe. Jim and Judy Zackerson. Why don't you raise your hands? We knew them when they used to ride back and forth between the house near ours, maybe even our house and their house. They had four in their family at the time, 2 girls and themselves, and they were riding a Honda 70. And it's quite amazing to see that. Some of the people, Africans, look in amazement at this. 4 white people riding this Honda 70 together. But anyhow, this picture was taken in the early to mid 70s. And my mom had her favorite monkey, Charlie. My sister had one of her favorite cats. We had our dog, Bismarck. And on the left is my brother, Brian, my sister, Cher, my mom, myself with a striped color. I think my mom might have had some surplus, I don't know, upholstery material or something. I don't know. I made myself a coat of many colors, and my youngest brother, Philip Scott, my dad. And right behind we had pineapple in our backyard, and we had some banana trees and so on. This picture was a few years different. This was just a few years ago in our living room with my siblings that were alive at the time, Brian and Cher and myself and my mom and dad. And this was in the same area. And we have this my brother on the left, Brian, and our youngest son, Caleb, myself, our oldest daughter, Anna Marie, and my parents, also in our living room. And again, we were celebrating a birthday. It might have been my mom's 80th birthday at our house here a couple of years ago, since my mom was a few years older than that when she died, 85 or thereabouts.
She was 87.
87. This could have been even 7 years ago, but I think it might have been a birthday after the 80th. This is a few years before that. This was in the country of Sierra Leone. I don't know if you can see it all that well.
Can't miss it.
Yes. Well, you like my nice pants, my bright pants. I like bright clothes. Bright shirts. My sister had tie-dye, and my mom had bright. My dad had the dullest outfit as gray. But anyhow, my youngest brother was not really happy in this particular picture because I think it might have been an obligatory picture. But anyhow, that was in Sierra Leone, West Africa in the early 70s. Now, I might add, just for your information, when I was putting this presentation together, some of the pictures were so small, I made them wide. And none of our family has a history of being fat, so you can have a laugh at it. but I just wanted to be able to see the people, even though it looks like they gained some weight. So there's a few pictures you'll see here that are contradictory to the Harden genes, in that the Harden genes are usually pretty skinny, and just think of the ties are pretty skinny. But the people really were not as wide as these pictures might. But you can at least recognize the people. My dad, my brother Brian on the lower right, I'm in the back, and my youngest brother was upset he had to have a red shirt. No. My youngest brother, Philip Scott, and my dad, when he was a baby, he had black hair. And when we went to Ghana, this picture's in Ghana in the late 60s, we went to Ghana, where we were at Kwaku Hospital, there was a nursing school nearby, and these nursing students would come up to my mom when we go to Sabbath school in church, and can we hold Philip Scott? And they would compete to hold my youngest brother. So much so, my mom says, she's thinking she has a squalling kid. Be my guest. I would love to have peaceful Sabbath school Bible study in church with you, these nurses competing to hold my youngest brother. So, anyhow, that was an interesting thought I had. But this was a picture a few years ago in my parents' living room. And my mom didn't actually sit on my dad's lap a lot of times in my knowledge, but she was in this picture. And we have, of course, my sister on the left, and my youngest daughter, Carolyn, and older daughter, Anna Marie, and Caleb, our youngest, with the white shirt kind of on the left, Dr. Bolton behind in the chair on the left, and my mother-in-law, Lucille on the blue on the right. And interestingly enough, my wife had a stepmom, Lucille, for more years than she had her birth mom, because her birth mom died in 1980 of cancer. And then a couple years later, my father-in-law married Lucille. And Lucille was a mom to my wife, to my wife for more years because my mother-in-law died at, 99 here a couple years ago. And my mother-in-law, Lucille, was also a charter member of this church. This picture was a few years back. My mom's on the right, and my mom's baby sister was in the next one down, just above the watch. And the lady in the back is my mom's mom. My mom's brother, Brian, and her older sister, Dot. And in fact, Laurie, raise your hand. My cousin Laurie right here is in the front row, sitting next to my sister Cher. Laurie is a daughter of the lady on the left in this picture. And so those are my mom's mom, and her siblings in that picture. And my mom and dad didn't get married. They got married in a Connor chapel. It was a girls' dorm chapel at Walla Walla College, August 10, 1958. And my dad had said that he was too young when he got married. And my mom said that she was about right. My mom also said my dad was too young when they got married. My dad was 21 when they got married, and my mom was 23. And my dad had one more year of college, and my mom had just graduated when they got married. And I don't know exactly what year my mom was, but she was having fun sitting on the hood of this car for this picture. And here's my sister Cher, my mom, and my parents' dining room area here in Wenatchee. And my mom a few years back. And these people, by the way, are not as wide as this picture portrays, the way I pulled it out. But my mom and dad, this was at their wedding at Honor Chapel, and my mom has other relatives in the picture as well. And that was again in Honor Chapel at Walla Walla College in 1958, August 10. And this was, I don't know exactly where this is at, but 3 of these kids are relatives of mine. I don't know who the girl is in the just to the right. I mean, I'm on the left. And then there's an unknown girl, and then my brother Brian and my sister Cher on the right, and my mom behind. My mom had some animal she had collected, and she was having fun and showing that off to the camera. And here is my daughter Anna Marie on the right, my brother Brian, and my brother Brian's two daughters as well. And Fiona and Claire. And my mom was just having fun posing for a picture in my dining room. And my brother Brian and his girls posing for a nice picture. And my nephew Dylan on the left, and he's in the back of our audience right now, where he has been. Dylan, raise your hand. Okay, he's right over here by the door right now, by Pastor Jason Canfield. His dad is my youngest brother, Philip Scott. And then daughter Anne Marie, daughter Carolyn, my mom, and my sister Sharon. This is in having, I don't know, Thanksgiving meal or something like that at my parents' house here in Wenatchee. And my brother Brian and his oldest daughter on the right, and his wife Karen, who is in our audience right now as well. And this was a few weeks back, a couple months ago, I guess. I drove down with my wife to, my wife might have gone to Boise before I did. But I'm holding my youngest grandson, Easton, who is also in our audience right today as well, and my daughter Anne Marie. And so my wife and I have 3 grandsons. We've got Easton, that's about 4 months old now, and we have Isaac, that's a little over 2 years old. And we have Philip, and I believe, yes, Philip and Isaac and my oldest son are in the back, kind of in the middle. Raise your hand, Marcus. Okay. So we have all of our grandsons, the 3 of them, are in our audience right now. And this was a sad time. This was here at Central Washington Hospital just a few days before my mom died. And my mom was stroking my dad in this particular picture, and my sister in this particular one. And this one, my mom was trying to intently straighten my collar because she figured my collar wasn't set correctly. And mind you, this is like a day or two before she died, and she's still wanting to adjust probably the shirt, something very similar. Well, this is a short sleeve one, wanting to make sure it's not got the creases wrong. And now my dad at the same time, or even that of the day after, I think Carolyn, who was there at the time, was holding a phone, but she had turned on WhatsApp or something, a social media thing, and my mom was watching her grandson Easton and Anna Marie in Boise, and I think she was talking live. Who was out? Who else? She had Marcus, and I think she had, what's that? And our son Caleb. She had a number of our kids and grandkids going back and forth, where she was communicating with them before she died. So she saw pictures of even the youngest grandson before she died, even though she didn't see him in person. Our good friend Dylan, who is standing by the entrance, and my nephew Dylan and Ruby. This was just a few weeks ago at my parents' house. And neither one of us are this wide, because, again, I wanted to have the picture big enough so we could see it. If you look at me, you'll know there's a contradiction, because I would have had to gain about 100 pounds in this picture. I think for the last, I don't know, 25 or 30 years, I've weighed between 135 and 150 pounds, and I look like I weigh a little more than that here. My brother Brian and his daughter Claire. Claire was up here when my mom was at her end as well, and my dad, at my parents' house. And again, this was my brother Brian and Claire and our youngest daughter Carolyn. And one time, if any, when our daughter Anne Marie was up here last and had her son Easton with her, we had my dad posted this picture. And I couldn't believe how big a beaming smile my dad had when he was holding a grandchild, Easton. And this is our daughter Anne Marie and Ruby and my mom's latest great grandchild. And I'm missing, there's a couple other grandchildren I have not put in the equation. Easton is my 3rd grandson, but he is not the only great-grandchild my parents have. I'm going to come to that in just a second. Some of these people are a little wider in this picture. I mean, not as wide as my picture portrays as well. We had a family reunion in Boise just a few years ago in this picture. And this one is a few years earlier. This was when we went to Sierra Leone in 1975. We had a few suitcases, too many. And, anyhow, I might add though, that's a lot less than when we went to Ghana. When we went to Ghana in 1967, my parents thought they were going to some remote place in Africa that they'd never have, they'd be bored to death. And so they had carried and shipped all kinds of things, including a grand piano, not a grand piano, including an upright piano across the ocean. And we had boxes of games, most of which we never played during the 2.5 years we lived in Ghana. My parents downsized when we went to Sierra Leone, but we still had plenty of stuff. This was a picture of my mom's in the yellow shirt on the right. This was in Sierra Leone. And we have a few people that were missionaries with us at the time. My youngest brother, Philip Scott, here in my mom's arms, and my brother Brian, and my sister Cher, and many other friends from that particular time period. And this is where our youngest daughter, Carolyn, graduated with nursing in Walla in Wenatchee, and then she got her associates in nursing locally, and she went and got her RN, or I guess her bachelor's in nursing in Tennessee, and so my parents came back there, and I came back there to watch our youngest daughter get a pinning and get her bachelor's of science in nursing. This was another picture of my mom, my sister, and my parents here in my house, or my wife and our house here in Wenatchee. This was a few years back. This was when my dad was holding me and my mom in their car. This was in 1960. I was a little under a year old, August 1960, since I was born in October '59. And this picture makes my mom look whiter than she really was as well. But this was at a beach in Ghana, West Africa, probably around 1968. And right at the same beach area, one time we were at this beach, and my mom saw somebody breaking into one of our cars. And so she ran up to the car and chased the guy away with a big knife. She was wondering what he would have done had he not had the big knife. My youngest brother had black hair in this picture. This was at the sign right at Walla Walla College. And a few other pictures in Ghana. And I don't want in Ghana, but we have some friends that are in this picture with us. And then that's the end. But anyhow, I have a few pictures there. My sister wanted to share a little bit before I play a part of this next video. And my sister say a few words, and we'll go to the next one after that for part of it, and then the balance will play during the meal.
Well, we were going to show the video first, but I wanted to just tell you a couple things. The video, I was supposed to keep it to 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Well, it turned out to be 40 minutes long. So we're going to watch part of it. When I get done telling you a couple of special moments that I remember about my mother. And after that, we can have the rest of the program. We're trying to keep it so it's not too long. And then we'll have lunch after that. But so I wrote too much too, but I just wanted to share. Let me just read it. It says, today is December 18th, and I will pay tribute to my mother's honor and her good name. This writing is about my mother, and I am Caleb E Harden. I'm Warrine's only daughter, and my mother and I share the same middle name as we also do with her mother, and that was my grandmother. So I felt pretty special about that. My mother was an awesome lady who feared God and loved all humans, birds, and animals. Her precious hands have helped many people, causes, and outcomes, and she never had a harsh word to say about anybody. She was my very best friend, and my life has completely changed without her in it. If I had, sorry, I wasn't going to cry. I have been honored and blessed to have resided and worked close to my dear mother and father and other close family members here in the Wenatchee Valley for the past 6.5 to 7 years. Before getting started, I just wanted to say that this world is only a temporary dwelling, and it's my vision and my hope to see not just my dear mother again someday, but my entire family in a good friends should do. And here's a poem I wrote for my mother. It's called Night Stars and a New Journey. Let me start over. As the day bids farewell and night bestows its eventide's breath upon the earth's floor, a new and startling plan emerges in the sky, as each twinkling member of the heavens above casts a sparkling brightness upon each new path, which settles upon the land. A new journey is revealed into the unknown of life, as shadows run and hide behind tall brush and trees, and blend into the painted landscape of this brand new facade of life. New truths emerge. Anyway, the most important and amazing thing I discovered about my mother and me was that we shared many common goals and interests, and in fact, when I looked in her Bible, I noticed many of the same verses that she had underlined in her Bible, I had underlined in my Bible too. And I have both Bibles, and I forgot to bring them, but I was going to show you, but anyway, it's going to be too long already, so here's 3 of the first texts that I found that when I looked in her Bible and then my Bible. One was Matthew 25:40. And the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as you have done it unto one of the least of these, my brethren, you have done it unto me. And the second one was Mark 10:25. It's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of God. And then Luke 11:10, For everyone that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened. And my mother was a firm believer in the Constitution of the United States, and she believed in personal rights and especially in religious freedom, and always practiced what she preached and advocated. On the last good day we had with my mother, my father and my mother and I went to the Hot Rod Cafe in Monitor, and we went to get a veggie burger, and she loved it, and she was doing really well that day. And we had just come from the doctor, and she had a good deal of health, so something drastically changed after that. So I have that fond memory of us sitting there having a veggie burger, and it was like kind of decorated in 50s style. I don't know if you've ever been to the Hot Rod Cafe in Monitor. It's a fun place to go, and they have great veggie burgers. Anyhow, so that was really fun. Anyway, what I really miss about my mother is every time I would go to the house, and when I would leave, she would get up and walk to the door and always wave goodbye to me so I'd have to hurry up and get in my car and go quickly so that she could wave goodbye to me. And I miss that. And I used to blow her a kiss every time I would leave. I would wave and then blow her a kiss, and now she's not here to do that anymore, really. And the last couple times, she didn't even get up from the chair that she was sitting in, and I knew something was wrong because every single other time she always got up and walked me to the door and waved goodbye to me. I miss her. I miss that. Anyway, she would always be the queen of her kitchen when I would try to go to her house and help her in the kitchen.
You don't want to mess with her in her kitchen.
No, you don't want to mess with my mom in her kitchen. She would just be like bumping you out of the way, and she's like, I said, Mom, can I help you? Oh, no, I have this all done. It's planned, and nobody can get in.
She'd follow you around, be putting things back.
She would not. Anyway, but when she stopped not wanting to be in the kitchen, I knew that something wasn't quite right. So I missed that. And then, when I was a little girl and I went to the hospital for open heart surgery, my mom, I used to make her work so much, poor thing. She would be comforting me, and then she would say she had to go, and she would walk all the way down this one really long hallway so that I could wave goodbye to her down at the end of the hall, and it was way out of her way. Otherwise, she could have just gone right out the hall and down this one door, and she could have gone back to her car quickly. But and she would walk way out of her way just so I wouldn't cry. And she gave me this when I was in the hospital when I was 5, and I still have it. And it was my friend in the hospital when my mom wasn't there. And then when I got out of surgery, my mom and dad were both sitting on the bench outside. They didn't know if I was going to live or die through that operation. And so my dad said, I was really glad you lived, and my mom was really glad I lived. And I remember seeing them just for a second when, I think when I woke up, they were standing right there, both my parents, and it was something I'll never forget. And just when I was 2 years old, I remember this day, and not just because it's in a picture, but my mom, it was a really super windy day, and my mom had me tucked in her coat, and I felt so warm and safe. And my head was sticking out of her coat for this one picture, and it'll be in the video. But I'm sleeping in the back of this stroller in this one picture, but I remember that same day I was peeking my head out of her coat on that same day. And I can't find that picture, but I do have a picture somewhere to prove it. But we went to Karen Fisher's house, my mom and I. There's another suitcase, and it's my mom's suitcase, and it's just like this, and we put all of these stickers on here of all the places we had traveled and all the places we had been together, and my mom had so much fun on that day. And she has a lot of the same places, of course, because she's my mother. We traveled a lot of the same places, and we put all these stickers of all the places we had gone. And of course, I went a few different places than she did, but that was a really fun day. And so I just wanted to remember these fun times too. I remember my dad got her a handheld shower that we could put in her shower toward the end of her life to make her easier to get in the shower. Because she didn't want to sit on the shower bench because she felt like she was drowning. So I said, let's just get her a handheld shower, Dad. And he installed that. She got to use it once before she died. And she really liked it. So thank you, Dad, for that. And just last year, for my birthday, we went up to Stephen's property on Badger Mountain, and we walked around, and my mom and Dad and I and Stephen, and I think who else? There were some other people there too, maybe. But it was a fun day, and you'll see the video clip that I'm going to show. And then I was going through this memorabilia, and I found that Best Teacher's award. My mother was my favorite teacher when I was growing up. She was a really good teacher. And I found this. It says Certificate of Merit awarded to Mrs. Warrine Harden for excellence in home teaching. And this was given to her from the Home Study Institute in Washington, D.C. as being a good teacher. She had a good teacher award. And this was, she was really proud of this Girls Club program from her high school days, and she was the president of that. She showed this to me, and she was telling me to listen to her when she wanted to show me some pictures and look at her scrapbook just a couple minutes before she died. And she said, Cher, I want you to know this is so-and-so, this is so-and-so, this is so-and-so. And she told me all these people, who they were, and I knew something wasn't right because she wanted me to know everything. And I said, Mom, well, she goes, well, I labeled a lot of them. So she did label a lot of the pictures, and she was very organized. And every box of hers is labeled, and you just know what's in the box before you even open it. She was very organized like that. Anyway, then there's a puzzle that she has unfinished on the ping pong table in our basement, and that'll be in the movie. And that was one of her church friends that gave it to her, and she said it was one of the hardest puzzles she ever made, except for the one that her son gave her, Brian and Karen. And it was my dad and Brian and Karen and my mom in the picture, and it was a puzzle that she made. And she said that was one of the hardest puzzles she ever made too. And
it was all gray.
Yeah.
The whole thing was gray.
Yeah, and so we still have that puzzle, and then we have her unfinished puzzle still sitting on the ping pong table in the basement. She would alternate between that puzzle, and she would have an easier puzzle on the table upstairs. So she would keep going back trying to do the puzzle in the basement too. Then the Old Rugged Cross was one of her favorite songs, and she played it. I recorded it, her playing it. She wouldn't let me take a video because she was too shy. But I recorded her playing it, and it's going to be at the end of the show. So if the movie, if we don't have time to see that part, we could watch it later. I have a link, and we have some copies of the video, but it's a really special video, and I spent a lot of time picking out a lot of different fun video clips and pictures and trying to put it together with a professional videographer. And it's a really nice rendition, and there's music and a lot of, my friend Brent is right here in the audience, and a lot of the guitar music is from him. He recorded his cousin in his recording studio. They do music recording, and it's very nice that some of the music that's in the video is his music, and my mom on the piano. Anyway, my dad, when he was really happy with my mom, he would be whistling around the house, and he would call her Reenie. But when he was a little upset, then he would say, Warrine. And so I really miss my mom's nickname. It was Reenie, and when everything was going well and everything was fine, he was like, hey, Reenie, you know, and he would be whistling around the house. So I do miss that when my dad whistled and called my mom Reenie. Everything, you knew everything was peaceful and everything was good. Just watch out though, when he says man of war, then you gotta watch out. But that was my mom never said a cuss word. I think the only cuss word I ever heard her say was, she might have said heck one time, and I was probably doing something really wrong, and that's the worst thing I ever heard her say was that. And then one time I told her, my dad, I said, he's kind of being mean, Mom, don't you think? And she, being the loyal wife that she is, she said, you know what, honey? He's not being mean, he just thinks he knows everything. And so I thought that was really cute, but in my dad's defense, she always said he was the truest, bluest man and the truest, bluest guy, and that she would never picture being married to anyone except for him, and that he was the Rock of Gibraltar. And so, you know, there was those little special things that I remember. Whenever I was having a bad day, I would call my mom and I would say, Mom, and as soon as I would hear her voice, it would be all better. I could just call her, and I didn't even have to talk about anything, and she would already know, and she would just make me feel better, and I miss talking to my mom. And I wasn't really ready. I thought I was going to have her for a few more years, and I had revised my life to help her and take care of her all the time, if I had to, and she just left way before I expected her to, so I was pretty sad. And to touch on what Pastor Beck was saying about my mom, she told me some same stories about when she was looking for her hairbrush to get ready for school one morning after their house had burned down and her dad built this makeshift little shack. She said she couldn't find her hairbrush, and she looked down and she went to wash her face, and her hairbrush was frozen in the pot of water in the house. So, you know, whenever I would have a bad day, I would think about stuff like that. My mom would say, well, you know, it was pretty cold in our house. And I'm like, how cold, Mom? And when she told me that, I said, oh, okay, it's pretty cold. So it's like when I have a bad day, I just think about stories that she told me like that, and my days, nothing is bad like that. And also, he touched on the leader of the band. My mom being the leader of the band since she was 7 years old. She was the baton twirler and the majorette and the leader of her band. And she always wanted to marry a doctor, and she got to marry my dad, being a doctor. And she was a religious leader, a registered nurse, a professor of nursing. She was a great gymnast in college. And I admired my mother. She was a very positive source of energy, positive energy for me. And she never had any bad words to say about anyone. And even the worst person on earth, she would say something good about that person. Well, I think that person, da 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 da. And she would always find something good in everyone. And one time she was at the hospital, and she looked at this guy that it was a patient of hers, and she said, do you remember me? And he said, no, should I? And she said, yeah, you gave me a ticket for speeding 3 miles over the speed limit last year. And the guy said, well, I'm really sorry. So he was going to be she was his nurse. And so he decided, he said, well, if I had it to do over again, I wouldn't have given you a ticket. So, but just fun things like that. Anyway, and the little kids that were singing so beautifully, my mom, the Kim children, the came over here and sang. They were going to sing to my mom that day that she died, and she died before they could get there. So thank you for singing that. And the Bush and children, they recorded that nice music, and the Samson Hedgerowa kids and the Fowlers. Allison was holding my mom's hand, and I was holding my mom's hand, and those children sang that song, B-I-B-L-E, right before my mom passed away. And I think she knew that she probably thought she was already in heaven or something, because their little voices were so nice. And she died just peacefully after she heard that song from those children. And I just wanted to thank them for being here and singing those precious songs, and I appreciate it. And I know my mom would, and I know she would be really happy to tell you that. So, I think she let go just right after she heard those pretty songs, those precious songs. And just a little trivia. My mother died on the same day that the Women's Auxiliary was formed back in September 14th of 1914. It was a war effort that I've been informed. Anyway, also the Star Spangled Banner was written on the same day that she died, but this was back in 1814. So those are just two things. And I'm just going to leave you with these final thoughts. Upon Jehovah's mountain of hope will I rest my many burdens, and within this mountain of many blessings will I rest until our Lord God and Savior returns for me. Even in the hospital, my mom lifted up her Bible and said something was missing, and I asked her if it was her Sabbath school quarterly, and she said yes. So I gave it to her, and she instantly placed her Sabbath school quarterly underneath her Bible, and then she relaxed. And I have pictures of her grasping her Bible in the hospital. And thank you, Pastor Brett, for being there when my mother was in the hospital. I appreciate it. And thank you very much, Pastor Jason, for sharing those kind words about my mother and our mother. My brothers are here as well. And my father was very sorry that he couldn't be here. And I just wanted to leave you with one more favorite verse of my mother's. And it was it was written in her Bible. It said John 14:27, and this is from the World King James Version of the Bible. It said, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth, give I unto you. And let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid." And now we'll just watch some of this. I think we'll watch a few, maybe 15 or 20 minutes of this video, and then we can watch the rest while we're eating lunch.
Yeah, I'll let Dad say just a word. You want right now?
Should we just watch that while we come here for Dad?
Yeah, I'll just let Dad say a few words first. Why don't you actually bring that phone up to the microphone? I'll let Dad say a few extra words, and then I'll show some video, and then I'll cut it off and play the balance of that during the meal time, and we'll have a few other tribute things here. I'll let my dad say a few words through this microphone.
Similar, like hobby interest, or leisure time interest, it would be unfortunate to have maybe one partner have a bookworm tendency with little exercise and the other one wanting to do more active exercise or sports pursuits without the partner joining in. So I wish you all the best. Have a good afternoon, and may God be with you each one. Wayne was a good lady to be married to, and I appreciate that. Appreciate your attendance here today. Enjoy the rest of the program, and I'll leave it over to Brian or Stephen or any of my children to carry on. Thanks and bye-bye.
I'm going to play this for a few minutes and then I just want to say mostly as far as about my mom, and that is I feel blessed that I've been able to have my mom in my life longer than most people, all 63 years that I have been around. And my mom and I had good relationship as far as I know most of the time. I got into trouble from time to time, but I feel very blessed to have enjoyed my mom for all my life, and I've had many good memories over the years. And just one little thing I like to just do for my mom's memory is sing a little song. And then after this, I'm going to turn the microphone over to anybody that might want to say a few words. But there's this little song that I think of when I think of my mom, but it can be a message for each of us. And it's simply called Until Then. My heart can sing when I pause to remember. A heartache here is but a stepping stone along a trail that's winding always upward. This troubled world is not my final home. But until then, my heart will go on singing. Until then, with joy I'll carry on. Until the day my eyes behold the city. Until the day God calls me home. The things of earth will dim and lose their value if we recall they're borrowed for a while. And things of earth that cause the heart to tremble, remember there will only bring a smile. But until then, my heart will go on singing. Until then, with joy I'll carry on. Until the day my eyes behold the city. Until the day God calls me home. Just think of my mom. My mom would not want this to be a sad occasion, but would want it to be a happy occasion, and in hoping and inviting people here to try to join her, and she'd want it to be a happy occasion. That's what I think of my mom, wanting to make things happy. Or sometimes, if it was a hard week, my mom would take us out to Hot Fudge Sundays, or she'd just make a candy bar out of the cupboard, but she wanted to have us enjoy it. And now I invite any one of you that might want to say a few words that is not directly tied to me, like my siblings, for example. Now is your time if you'd like to say a few words about my mom. Is there somebody that'd like to say a few words? So raise your hand.
that I was super grateful for their generosity and their hospitality. They let me come and stay at their house for like a whole year, back and forth to their house while I got to know my now husband. And it was just so nice to have a place to be and feel so welcome. And it was very fun to do puzzles with Warrine. I will always remember doing puzzles with her. And then just talking while we did the puzzles. And yeah, it was just very special. So I appreciate that very much.
I remember Warrine. I want to compliment her. She took shorthand and kept it up all those years. And Pastor Canfield said she made the funny little squiggles. She took the notes for the board meetings in shorthand and did a wonderful job, and she did well. I used to take shorthand at 180 words a minute and dictation, and then I would type the letters for my boss. And I can't do it at all now, but Maureen could still do shorthand. And I wanted her, if she was living now, I would tell her how much I admire her.
I could always expect that at potluck, Warrine would bring chocolate brownies. And always, if I was at church, and Hal and Warrine were here, and Dorothy hadn't arrived yet, there was always the question, how is
Somebody else.
okay. I think you've already heard that we were in Sierra Leone in a hard run. I've been there 2 years. I got to be there for me. So, you were there with actually the Peace Corps volunteers, which is a strange combination. You haven't had a mission. As a Peace Corps volunteer. But I will remember when the physical therapy building was completed and the president came. We didn't have social media that era. This was 50 years ago. But the word got out to all the villagers around, and they came fast. And I can remember, they didn't come to see the president, they came to see that big bird come down out of the sky with a helicopter. And I think they came to eat too, they got some food. But anyway, about 6 months ago, one of the daughters, the daughter of the business manager, set up a Zoom meeting with some of us who were there at the same time. So within the last 6 months or so, we've had this meeting every 2 months or so, and it's really been neat to kind of get reacquainted with people who now live in, some live in Norway, Scotland, some in Maryland, back east, in Idaho, even some in Hawaii now. So we've had a good visit for a couple months with our insane friends. Angela wanted us to relate to you, Harden family, as they are with you, and want to extend their sympathy to your family.
Angela Pitts, she was talking to, Angela Pitts. She and her parents were missionaries, and her sister in Sierra Leone, West Africa. They lived right next to us, and we've communicated a number of times.
Warrine was a very talented lady, very special lady. Not only with the puzzles, because sometimes my mother-in-law Shirley and I would be the ones who put puzzles together, and then when we were finished with them, we'd give them to Warrine. And I know at many of our yard sales, she'd pick up puzzles too. But I asked her one time how long it took her to do between a 750 and 1,000, and I think she told me 2 days. And it would take me 3 months. if I were to do it alone. With my mother-in-law, she was just about as talented as Warrine. She does 2,000-piece puzzles, which gives me a headache. Anyway, Warrine also, within I think the last 8 years, she could still twirl her baton and do the splits because she would do it for our talent night. And we were in the East Wenatchee Church. We weren't in this facility yet, and she put Hal in a chair and sang him the sweetest little song, and twirled her baton and did the splits afterwards. And she could write on the board, left-handed, right-handed, backwards, both hands. Her brain was
You
amazing.
can read the backward stuff in a mirror.
Yeah, her brain was amazing. It was awesome. I miss her, and she was a very special lady.
I just appreciate Hal and Warrine and their openness. When I was first looking for Jesus, I had promised God that I would go to every single church in this town a couple times. And I read my Bible a couple times and nothing felt right. So I went to I was playing a lot of soccer and we really beat them right away. And so I was going up the street and doggone, there's that Seventh-day Adventist church, probably a cult. But I told God I'd go, so I went in my soccer clothes and cleats and everything. And two families approached me. That was the Boltons and Hal and Warrine. And they were one of the first people to ask me to come to their home for lunch. And I just really appreciated that, being a kind of a wild girl. And they brought me in.
Yeah, we love you.
Let's go.
And so.
So anyway, I appreciated the time with them at the lunches and talking about God and who God was.
Couple people that might want to say something besides talk. Anyone else? Yeah. Go off for about 5 or 10 more minutes, then we'll turn this off.
I'll be short. My name is Steve, and several years ago I had a chance to work with Warrine, and worked with a lot of people in healthcare for a number of years. And Warrine is a memorable person that I work with in our same department. And one way in which I would describe Warrine was she had a quiet confidence. And I wonder if maybe that might be reflected from her relationship with God. And I just appreciated that about her, and my condolences to the family.
If you didn't get to try her pizza, I am really sorry. Because it was the best pizza I ever had.
Spoken by our grandson Dylan here. Dylan Harden. That is my youngest brother. Okay.
I guess this guy was pointing back here.
I was taking directions the wrong way.
Yeah, going off of Dylan, I remember Grandma would make pizza for any holiday, any birthday, any time we wanted, no matter what. And the traditional foods would be neglected for pizza. But one thing that I remember too is I remember we go there, we may be watching TV or something like that, Little Bears, one she likes us to watch the most. And she would always have us get up and run around the house for a while to get our exercise, make sure we got enough exercise while we were there. She didn't want us just to sit in front of the TV when we were there. And I always remember, my kids are sick right now, and my Aunt Sherry got some cough drops the other day. I remember Grandma always had those cough drops in her purse, and she would not to us grandkids, along with Citizen. But yeah,
Grandma was always just a real nice person. I also remember, one sister's not in here at the moment, but she taught me how to play checkers and chess. Anna Marie would always cry at her house because I would always beat her. Grandma, that was Grandma's fault. She helped me learn how to do that.
Anybody else want to say something here? I'm going to have a little right here.
Warrine was just the nicest person.
And she would always invite me to her table to eat. Very Warrine wanted to practice her Spanish. She know that my Spanish and English are just the same. They're not very good. They didn't get her brain at all.
My mom did speak Spanish, and sometimes when she'd go to a restaurant, some people were talking about her. And after they had embarrassed themselves enough, then she would talk back to them in Spanish, and they would look really embarrassed, wondering how much she really understood.
I just always remember that Warrine was always so positive, and we had the privilege when our kids were a lot younger, about 25, almost 30 years ago. Warrine was going to school in Spokane that expanded nursing degree that she already had, and she would stay at our house. And one time it was her birthday, so she brought a birthday cake with her so that we could celebrate. But unfortunately, I didn't know to have pizza on the menu. But we still had a good time, and we had a good time every time she came to visit.
When I was in college, my mom thought about becoming a physician. And then she thought, well, maybe I'll be my PA. Then she decided, well, I'll just add nursing to my repertoire. Anybody else want to say something before I'm going to turn the closing over to Jason?
That ladies' tea party that we had here at the church just a few months before my mom passed away was really a memorable experience, and it was really cool. She liked it because the guys were waiting on us ladies. They all had their tuxedos on, and they kept us all supplied with lots of snacks and tea. It was fun. Anyway, I forgot. There's a couple things I forgot.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and have Jason have the benediction and also include a blessing for food for people that are going to stay here for some food afterward. Again, it's nice to have each one of you joining us for this occasion. Thank you for being here.
I think we could have gone on all day, but we'll go ahead and continue the conversations and the memories. But let's bow our heads to conclude this time with a word of prayer. Loving Father in heaven, thank you, Lord, for blessing us with the memories. Thank you for all that we gained from Warrine's life. For all the ways she taught her kids, the way she made us laugh, the way she cared about each of us, her positivity, her brilliant mind, her doing the splits, and all the different things she did, the pizzas and everything that made Warrine Warrine. And we just pray, Lord, that we would continue to have that positive, wonderful conversation. May it continue as we enjoy some food. Bless the food to nourish our bodies, and may we never forget the mark she's left on our lives and the God she loved so much and shared with all of us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Please enjoy this movie. We're going to just watch that, and you can see that while you stand in line. Or anyway, there's a lot of grandkids and great grandkids and other fun stuff in this video.